Welcome, everyone. My name is Mary Eleanor Power, and I am the Director of Marketing and Communications for the Faculty of Open Learning and Career Development at Dalhousie University. And I am delighted to welcome you to today's webinar that will be hosted by my colleague, Chris Fevens, and he will introduce himself in a moment, where we'll be talking about recognition of prior learning. What is it, and how might it help you or your colleagues if you're joining us in an HR capacity or some other capacity from an organization? So I would like to begin by acknowledging that Dalhousie University is located in Mi'kmaq, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq. We are all treaty people. And Chris, without further ado, I will pass it over to you, and just with one other caveat, which is that if you have a question, please feel free to add it in the chat. You'll notice that in the to column, you can drop that down and make sure that your question or comment is shared with everyone. If for some reason there is a default to only showing it for hosts and panelists, so just make sure that your question is can be visible for everyone. We will leave some time at the end for any questions, but feel free to pop them in as we go along. So Chris, over to you, and I will end this poll, and lovely to see people from all parts of our beautiful country. Thanks, Chris.
All right, thank you. As Mary Eleanor has mentioned, my name is Chris Fevens. Over the last 2 years, I have been responsible for developing, implementing, and now managing the recognition of prior learning program. And I'm super delighted to tell you about the program today that's already, we've been up and running for about a year now. In September it'll be, and we've already had the chance to help so many people kind of fast track their education so they can reach their professional and academic goals in a more timely and cost efficient manner. So super excited to tell you about the program. While I talk here, I'm just going to bring up a PowerPoint. And let me get rid of that. Yes, very excited to tell you about this program today. I'm going to tell you, first of all, what this program is, the reasons why we have developed this program and are running this program in the Faculty of Open Learning and Career Development. I'm going to tell you about how to apply to this program, and of course, what are the benefits for people that go through our recognition of prior learning program. I hope to get through my presentation in a kind of quick manner, because I'm really hoping that you may have some questions for me. As Mary Eleanor has mentioned, you can feel free to put those in the chat, and I think she will let me know when a question comes up. Or at the end, like I said, I'm saving some time for questions then. Our webinar is scheduled to go to 12:30. If you have additional questions that go beyond that time period, I will stick around and do my best to answer your questions. So with that, let's get started. I'm hoping everyone can see this, first of all. Let me hide this too. Something.
Yes, we can, Chris, thanks.
Always something strange about seeing yourself talk at the same time, I think. The recognition of prior learning program. I'm going to refer to this from now on as RPL, to save myself some breath and the long phrase. RPL is a process that is designed to award learners advanced standing, or what that means is credit towards one of our academic credentials in the Faculty of Open Learning and Career Development. And how we do this is we take a look at the learning that someone has acquired from many different places in their life, and we compare that against what someone would learn in our courses. And if that is equal or equivalent, we provide someone with advanced standing, as I mentioned, or credit towards one of our credentials. Now, and I'm going to get into this a lot deeper later in this presentation, but that's a very quick overview of what this is. The reasons why we developed this program, there's many reasons. Number one, we really wanted to increase access to our programming by eliminating some of the barriers that people face when deciding whether or not to study at a place like Dalhousie. We understand that probably two of those biggest barriers are time and money, right? To dedicate or commit yourself to going back to school to continue on your professional development, it does require time and a certain amount of money to be able to do that. So we hope that by helping people to get a head start in their academic programs with us through this program, that some of those barriers will be maybe not completely gone, but be reduced to a manageable level. We also hope that once we do get more and more students in our programs, that this will facilitate kind of a love or a desire to continue studying throughout their lives. So lifelong learning is a popular term we use. We also think that it's important that we validate the learning that takes place outside of the classroom. We understand as a university that some of the most important things we learn in life, they don't happen in a classroom. They happen in people's work environments. They happen when people are volunteering, when they're raising their families, all these different experiences. So we think it's important to validate that and say, yes, that is as important as what you would learn in a classroom. We feel like this can, it can help boost people's self-esteem, their confidence, and hopefully their comfort when returning to a university classroom. On a bigger scale, we feel like this program can also help the community, Halifax, the province of Nova Scotia, alleviate some of the skill shortages we have in our labor market. And we're also hopeful that later down the line that this program can assist newcomers to integrate into the labor force by recognizing their experience abroad and their international qualifications. So in this program, there are two types of learning that we assess. And for each of these types of learning, there is a separate application that students complete. One of these types of learning is prior certified learning, and the other is prior experiential learning. And in the next few slides, I'm going to explain what these are in a little greater detail. So prior certified learning, this is any type of learning that takes place in a formal learning environment, usually offered by a professional trainer. So this could include, and you can see there's many examples here, but this is not everything, of course, but this could include the training that someone has gotten in the military. It could be training or coursework that someone has done to get into a certain profession like emergency medical technicians. It could be apprenticeships that people have done. It could be coursework that someone has done at other colleges or private learning institutions or universities, quite a wide variety. And so when someone has this type of learning and they want us to assess this so that they can be awarded credit or advanced standing, what we do is we ask them to, in their applications, and I'll talk about applications in a few moments, in their applications, they just provide us with as much information about their prior certified training as possible. So that could include resumes, it could include their military resume, could include certificates of completion, letters of completion, things like course outlines or course syllabus, transcripts, could be many different types of information. And what we'll do when we get that information from you is we will dig deeper into that and measure that against what you would learn in our courses. And again, if what you have learned in your certified learning is equal, and I'll talk about what it means to be equal a little bit later, to what you would learn in our courses, then we can provide you with advanced standing or credit towards your certificates. The other type of learning is definitely a more holistic type of learning. We look at learning that can happen really anytime and anywhere in someone's life. So this could occur, this could be learning that you get from performing your job every day. It could be learning that you have gotten from volunteer experience. It could be learning from maybe a committee that you stand on. For example, if you served as the treasurer for your condo board for a number of years, we can look at that. We can see that even though maybe you have not had formal accounting or budgeting education, we see that you've been performing these tasks, this budgeting, this forecasting, this accounting as the treasurer of your condo board. And we can look at that and we can say, okay, this person already knows this. And so maybe we can give you advanced standing in perhaps one of our business management courses or certificates, for example. This could also, even be more informal than that. Maybe this experiential learning you have comes from a life skill, like creating a family budget, or maybe it's a skill you've learned using technology that you've taught yourself, or maybe you're really passionate about some topics, so you've done so much reading on this and you feel that I am an expert in this now. We will look at all of these different types of experiential learning and try to map that up against our course learning. So this application process, very similar to the prior certified learning, with the exception that we ask learners to complete a learning portfolio. So this is a collection of documents that demonstrate that the learning that you say you have, you actually have. Right? And we also ask people to demonstrate that this is equal to what you would learn in one of our courses. So these documents, again, they include things like your resume or CV, maybe a list of your professional and academic goals, maybe a biography. They all include something called a learning verification chart, where basically in that chart you explain how your prior learning is equal to what you would learn in one of our courses, and also supporting documents. So those could be, reference letters, they could be certificates, they could even be work that you have completed. So let's say you have led a workshop on leadership in your role at your job, right? And you created a PowerPoint for that workshop. You could submit that PowerPoint. And again, we would look at that and use that to measure what you have already learned in your prior experiential learning to what you would learn in our courses. I'm going to stop there. Is there any questions, perhaps in the chat box? Does anyone have any immediate questions that they're wondering about?
I don't see any questions in the chat here, Chris.
Okay.
But feel free to add in. I know that myself included can be a slow typer with questions. So, sure. Oh, and I see one popping in the Q&A from Janet. What do you mean by equal to what you'd learn in a course?
All right,
like you wouldn't have the theory that would be taught in a DAL class. Absolutely.
That's a great question. And the answer to that lies on a further slide, but I'll actually get into that now. So maybe I'll jump ahead here and jump to this slide here, actually. Oh, go back. So I'll jump ahead to this slide here about how we assess applications, and hopefully this will answer your question. So first of all, when anyone submits an application, and I'll tell you how to do that in a minute, we have our subject matter experts assess these applications. It's not me. I am definitely not an expert in all of our programs and certificates that we offer. So we have subject matter experts are typically instructors of our courses. So those are people with obvious expertise because they're teaching the course, and usually have a wealth of experience as well related to whatever course they're teaching. It could also be one of our program directors who have expertise in this course as well. They've helped to design these courses with our instructors. And so what these subject matter experts are looking at is they're looking at again, how closely your prior learning matches up against our course's learning. And so we're looking at topics that you have covered, skills that you have, how much experience you have. If you've taken a previous course, how long was that course? How are you assessed in that course? These type of things, the learning outcomes that you got in, your training or your other courses that you've taken. There's really so many different things we're looking at, but some of those are some of the key things. We also look at the relevance as well. Is what you have learned in the past still applicable? A good example of this would be a computer course. If someone took a course 20 years ago on computer skills, probably that's not going to be applicable or eligible for a computer course taught in 2022, just simply because technology has changed so much. So we do look at the timeliness of your learning as well. And so we look at all those different things, and then, we try to make this assessment. Now, we understand that someone's prior learning, the courses, the training, the experience, it's never going to match up 100% to what we teach in our courses. And if it does, that's great. I mean, that makes our lives so much easier. So, there is some room there to say, they've learned most of what's taught in this course, and so we can still give them advanced standing in one of our courses. Also, when we're assessing your prior learning, there is the possibility that we might ask you for more information, or we might ask you to complete an alternative assessment like an exam, a presentation, an interview, something like that. So
Chris, I'll just jump in here for a second while you're on that slide. I think there are two questions here that are particularly relevant to the assessment of applications and just people sharing their different experiences, but maybe you can speak more broadly to the points they're raising. Sure. Julie in the chat is asking, for those with advanced degrees, like master's degrees, does it make more sense to go with the RPL than life experience? Yeah, it would. And so again, everyone's jumping around to different parts of my presentation, but that's awesome. I'm glad the questions are coming in. So one of the first things that we ask anyone who's interested in applying to this process to do is to first reach out and contact me. And at that first initial contact, that's when we can discuss which of those applications is better suited for you. If you do have that rich academic background, you've taken master's degrees, for example, in something that's relevant to one of our courses, then normally I would say, yes, you should go through the prior certified learning application. And if you're someone who's coming to me with, maybe you don't have that same academic background, maybe you went from high school right into your profession, your current profession, in those cases, I might say, okay, maybe you should go through experiential learning. One thing I should note is that when you do that experiential learning application, you're completely welcome to include any information that you have about formal courses or degrees, diplomas, certificates that you have in that application, right? So there's that possibility too. I think you may have touched on this as well, Chris, but just a question coming in anonymously through the Q&A. Yeah. Can RPL apply to regular DAL programs, for example, psychology? All right, I'm going to go back to this slide then, because that's a perfect segue. So one thing I should note, very early in this presentation is that the recognition of prior learning program is currently only applicable to Faculty of Open Learning and Career Development programs. So only certificate programs in our faculty. And I should add in there, it's only applicable to our faculty right now. So one of the goals of this program, and this program, like I said at the beginning of this presentation, it's only been around for a year. But one of our goals is to expand this program to other faculties who are interested in this. And through conversations with other faculties, there are definitely faculties who are interested in this. But
probably that's, a year, maybe 2 years away before we can start offering recognition of prior learning in degree programs. I should also mention that the university itself does have a challenge for credit program. And if you are interested in that, and you want to email me about that, I can provide you with information about that. It is different than recognition of prior learning, but there are some similarities there.
Just one question to hear from Dan. Can advanced standing be awarded for less than a full course certificate, i.e. partial course credit?
So for us in the Faculty of Open Learning and Career Development, first of all, to go through this process, you have to be interested in completing one of our certificates. It's not just for a one-off course, right? You have to be intending to complete one of our certificates. And our certificates, I think they range in length from maybe 3 courses would be the shortest certificate to up to 9 or 10 courses being the longer certificates. We don't give partial course credit. Instead, we would either give you the full credit for 1 course or 2 courses or 3 courses or however many, but not partial credit. And that leads me to this slide and the fact that people who go through this process, they can receive up to 50% of a certificate through the recognition of prior learning program. So if our certificate is 6 courses long, you can receive up to 3 of those courses through this process. One thing you can also get through this process is direct admission into our advanced certificates. So in our faculty, we have foundational certificates or prerequisite certificates that students have to take before going into some of our advanced certificates. An example of this would be in our FIRE program, our FIRE leadership program. We have a certificate in fire service leadership, which would be the foundational program. And then we have certificates in fire service administration. If you have demonstrated you already have all of the learning in that first foundational certificate, you can get an exemption from having to take that and go right into our advanced certificates. Also, as I mentioned, probably the biggest benefit here is that RPL has the process to reduce the amount of time and money that someone would spend to get a certificate with us in our faculty. So I hope that answered Dan's question. Yes,
and just one follow-up question from Chris, and I think we're getting into kind of the nuts and bolts of what would be required to be, what you would need to fill out in the application. But Chris is asking, will you need to specifically identify which course or courses within the certificate program that you want to challenge for credit?
Yes, you have to tell me which certificate that you are interested in, plus the course that you're interested in challenging, so to speak. So you have to tell me, you have to tell us in your application, you actually have to choose which of the courses you are interested in, I guess, challenging. The only caveat here is that those people who are coming from military backgrounds, it's a little bit different of a process where, and we're still, to be honest, we're still working on this, but there's the possibility that instead of being given specific courses, that you might be given what we're calling non-specific block credits. So just 3 non-specific courses. So you would have to complete 3 other ones, but that's a bit more, it's still in the works. And if there is anyone on this call from the military who's more interested in that, please let me know, because there's a separate kind of assessment process that we're using in an outside body called the NAPL, the National Association for Prior Learning and Assessment. We're using their program to help us with that. So I'm just going to quickly go on to the next slide here. These are, I don't know if you guys can see this, but I'd love to get rid of this. How do you apply? First step, as I mentioned, we recommend that you talk to me so I can tell you, number one, are you eligible for this? For example, if someone comes and they're coming right out of high school and they want to go through this process, typically I might say, maybe you don't have enough prior learning or experiential learning to go to get credit for one of our courses, but you never know. I can also tell you which application is best suited for you. And I can also provide you with basic information about the certificates that we offer, or point you in the right direction to someone who knows, more further information about those certificates. After that, the next step is creating a Destiny 1 account. That's our student management service or system that we use in our faculty. Very easy to do that. Takes, just a couple minutes to create an account. Once you've done that and you go into your account, you can choose the proper RPL application. You complete the application. Everything is done online. So there's no printing and scanning and mailing things to us. It's all done online through Destiny. And there is a $175 assessment fee. I know that's not nothing, but it sure is a lot less than paying, up to, I guess, $1,000 for one of our courses. And that's especially not, that's a very much if you are to receive 3 or 4 courses in your application. That could, that's obviously much less than those tuition costs. I see I'm running out of time here. So I'm going to quickly go through this. I've already gone through this, except for the point that once we receive one of your applications, we hope to complete the assessment of your application within 4 weeks. Sometimes it's a little shorter than that. Sometimes if it takes a lot of digging and we need more information, it might be a little more than 4 weeks, but 4 weeks or less is our goal for this assessment process. Who can you talk to if you have further questions about that? That's me. There's my picture. I actually don't like this picture, but I put it on there. I thought it was suitable. Of course, there's my email address. Very simple, rpl@dal.ca. Again, I can help you with information about certificates that we offer. I can tell you, if you're eligible for this program, which application you should complete. I can definitely help you complete those applications. If you're going through the experiential learning stream, I can give you help on how to create that. I can give you a handbook on the learning portfolios. I can give you sample portfolios to help you. And finally, if you go through this process and you are unhappy with the results of your assessment, you have the right to appeal your RPL assessment results as well. And I can help you with that as well. So again, my email address, rpl@dal.ca. Any questions, I'd love to answer them. So feel free to email me at any time.
This is wonderful. Thank you very much, Chris. And kudos to you for keeping to time. And I know I was jumping in there with some questions and some great questions. Obviously, some of the questions just reveal the point that it's, people all bring in unique experiences and unique backgrounds to this conversation around RPL. So certainly I would kind of reinforce the point that Chris is making and encourage everyone to reach out to him. And I will say as well, and there was a great question added in the chat, so they beat me to it. Before the end of your workday today, you will receive an email, and please check your junk if you don't see it in your inbox. You will receive an email from us, from our faculty, with a recording of today's webinar that we host on our YouTube channel. You can find other prior webinar recordings there as well if you're interested. And you'll also just that email, rpl@dal.ca, that will be reinforced in the email as well, along with just a page on our website that explains a lot of what Chris covered today. So please keep an eye out for that. I see lots of thanks in the chat. Thanks, John. John made a comment here, very helpful. I'm glad, and lots of thank yous, which is wonderful. I hope, Chris, that you will have a full inbox in the days ahead.
Me too.
And as was also mentioned a little bit earlier as well, about the recording of the webinar, please feel free to share the recording of the webinar, the email widely with your colleagues for those that perhaps weren't able to attend today. Or perhaps there are those that you're thinking of that you think, gosh, it would really benefit them to know about this. We would highly encourage you to share the information widely and the recording widely. Okay, I don't see any other questions coming through, and we have hit our time, just 1 minute over. Oh yes, Chris, you have 2 quick questions if it's not too late. Absolutely. Go for it, Chris. And I'm happy to unmute you here. And if you want to just ask your question verbally. Oh, you're jotting them in the chat. Great. Can you apply at any time during your certificate program?
Yes. So the answer to that is yes. You can apply during your certificate program. If you are currently taking a course with us, you can't go back and ask for that course. So it doesn't apply to current courses that you are taking. But if you still have, 2, 3 courses that you need to take to complete the certificate, absolutely you can apply, and we can assess your prior learning and hopefully give you some advanced standing.
And I'll just read this out as well. If you look for credit, for example, 3 courses, is there the possibility to only be recognized for 1, 2, or 3? The
answer to that is yes as well. So you can apply actually up to 6 courses, I think, on the application. But again, you can only receive 50% of that certificate through this program. And it is possible that, maybe you only get one of the 6 or 2 of the 6, or, so you can receive less than what you applied for. It's not all or nothing.
I should also mention, okay, wonderful. Glad that we can answer your question there, Chris. I should also mention that on the RPL page, and I will actually include it in the chat here too. No harm in just sharing it now, and that way you don't have to wait for the email that will come. I'm sure you'll all be waiting with bated breath for the email to come in your inboxes, but this is the website that you can visit that has, again, a lot of what Chris has covered in today's webinar. As well, you'll notice that there's an FAQ for people at the bottom. And so that answers a lot of maybe those more specific questions. And I think Moha has a question here. I hope I've pronounced your name correctly. We're working with international medical graduates with interrupted education from Ukraine and other countries. Can you help with that?
Sorry, I was on mute. That is a fantastic question. We can try to help with that is my best answer right now. I should tell you that one of the goals of this program is to eventually look more into international qualification recognition. I think we're planning to apply for some government funding to help out with the research of that as well, because this is, besides the situation with people coming from Ukraine, there are so many people coming to Nova Scotia on a daily basis with, these great qualifications and experience from abroad, but, they're really struggling to get into the labor force or to continue their education. So yes, the answer is we can definitely try to do that, try to help out with that. But, it's something we're definitely still working on.
Wonderful. Okay, fantastic. So I just in light of us going over time, just a few minutes, I will encourage folks to reach out to Chris directly if you have any other questions. And really, thank you everyone for the engagement today. Really appreciate you coming to this webinar with some questions for Chris, and it makes it that much more enjoyable for us to have that engagement. So thank you. And thank you very much, Chris, for taking the time to walk us through the program. And have a wonderful rest of the day, everyone. Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks.